Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session regarding heritage tourism. And I just want to give you a brief welcome and introduction. My name is Julie Fitzpatrick, and I'm representing the Pennsylvania Downtown Center. And we are excited today to bring Josh Sherretts from Bull Moose Marketing into the conversation regarding heritage tourism and working with a marketing strategy within your community. Some of you are participants and members of the Pennsylvania Downtown Center, but for those of you who aren't, we are a statewide nonprofit. We are the state coordinator with the National Main Street Center and also the Department of Community and Economic Development to work with Main Street and Elm Street communities, so communities that are working on their downtown revitalization strategies and their neighborhood revitalization strategies. And we're just really excited to bring Bull Moose into the conversation today. Originally, we were, I think, hoping to have them be part of our conference back in June of 2019 when we were in Erie. Some of you might remember that. And we thought this was a great alternative to be able to share their knowledge and their experience with our constituents. So I see from our registration that we have a really diverse group of organizations and a really diverse group of various communities, not just throughout Pennsylvania, but in some of our surrounding states as well. So if you're not familiar with Pennsylvania Downtown Center or Bull Moose Marketing, we'd certainly encourage you to just kind of take a look at both of our entities. And we're, as a nonprofit, we are hoping to be able to bring more of these types of sessions to our members and our constituents on an ongoing basis. So we're really excited with this topic. This is something that Pennsylvania Downtown Center certainly promotes as part of a transformation strategy in communities. And for those of you who may not be familiar, we've done some work with the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources around nature-based placemaking, really using our natural assets and as ways to drive not just tourism, but also quality of life. So there's a lot of synergy here, and just really excited to have this conversation. So I will turn it back over to Josh.
Thanks, Julie. I'm excited to be here, and let's get started. This is a great topic, a topic that we are happy to bring you and happy to have a conversation as well. So a little bit of logistics. We have everyone muted at this point, just in case there's any feedback with your microphones or whatnot. But if you have any questions, please type them into the question and answer feature, and Julie will bring those to my attention if I'm going through some slides. We've got a couple of poll questions tucked in, just multiple choice. Don't worry, not a test, as we proceed. And then we'll send out a copy of the slides and recording via email in the next few days. So we're excited to be here for you. We're excited to hopefully be a little bit of help as people are trying to figure out not just how to best portray the assets and get the stakeholders they have involved in their areas on the tourism front, but also how to best market those areas. We'll jump in here and see what we can do to start some conversation. A little bit about myself, the co-owner at Bull Moose Marketing. I've got about 15 years in the heritage tourism field, everything from a museum director at a Supreme Court Justice's Historical Society, do some speaking on a regular basis, have written some local history books and a few other odds and ends. Do a lot of working with nonprofits, local government, whatnot, on strategic planning and marketing. Involved in the Crawford County Historical Society in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and also a board member at the Crawford County Convention Visitors Bureau at our DMO here in this region. And we have Julie, who's told us a bit about the Downtown Center. Julie, do you want to tell us a bit about you as well?
Sure. Thanks, Josh. So yeah, a little bit about me. As Josh said, I've already shared about the organization. I think the most relevant pieces here is that I kind of eat, sleep, and breathe heritage tourism in the community where I live, at home from around the 1810s, 1812. Actually, it says on the deed, I am a block from the Susquehanna River, right near our 14-mile trail that we hope at some day will actually be a couple hundred miles and connect with a whole network of other trails. Actually, our 12,000 miles of trails that we have here in Pennsylvania. So really excited about this. And we celebrate the heritage aspect of our community all the time. So this is really very near and dear to my heart, and glad to be part of it. Thanks.
Thank you. So let's chat a bit about our agenda for the next hour or so here. We'll talk a little bit about heritage tourism's importance, importance for those communities, and importance overall as an industry. We can talk a little bit about the behavior and the impact of a heritage tourist, not just the industry, but those individuals. And if you're a visitors bureau or a DMO of some sort in your city, or even a community, and you're going, okay, so why should we be focusing specifically into heritage tourism? Some numbers here really might push you over the edge and looking at a few initiatives. And then last but not least, we'll talk a bit about the foundations of building that marketing strategy, what's included in that on an upper level, some common challenges that you might be facing that marketing strategy can help with. So we'll chat about that, obviously chat about how the numbers coming out of that marketing can help. Those analytics can tie to your goals and tie to what you're trying to do in initiatives in the future. So let's jump in a bit. All right, so a little bit about heritage tourism's importance. Right off the bat, let's understand, many of you, this is something that you are incredibly familiar with. Few of you might be in a situation where you're going, okay, there's a lot of history around here, but tell me more, what's going on? So according to the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the definition for heritage tourism is traveling to experience a place, the artifacts, and the activities that authentically represent the stories and people of the past and present of that place. So think of it this way, that is the cultural assets, the arts museums, the so forth, the historic assets, the local museums, the local landmarks, the monuments, the ruins, the what have you, and then natural resources. This includes the walking trails, this includes the local lakes, this includes all of those things. Think of it this way, think of it as someone coming to your area and what you can do to really authentically show them what your area is like then and now. So that said, let's look at how this makes a lot of sense, not just from the Visitors Bureau and from a heritage area. You've got a difficult job. You've got a geographic space that you have to try to represent to the public. The DMO end of things, it might be a county, it might be a 2-county or whatnot. But also the Main Street and Elm Street coordinators, the what have you, you've got a community or a town, the economic development people, the local municipal people, you've got a town that you've got to try to sell, not just as a town to live in, but also as a town to visit. And how do you package that? How do you put that together? Because those people coming in are going to drive funds for developing those assets. They're going to drive or bring in funds with them to help local businesses, you name it. There are many designated federal and state heritage regions. Some of you might be in attendance today. However, a common misperception is you don't necessarily need to be a designated heritage tourism area or heritage region to leverage heritage tourism. This is far more a broad topic that is allowing people to come to your area when you might not have Disney, you might not have Colonial Williamsburg, you might be a city of 15,000, you might be a city of 5,000. However, how do we get people there to see what you have to offer and experience that something that is beneficial, but they might not know about? So let's jump into our first poll here. Little bit about heritage tourists versus leisure tourists. So if we can have you guys tell us what you think in terms of who takes more trips annually, by what percentage, and about how large of an industry you think this might be. We'll give you a few seconds to vote. All right, give me about 5 more seconds or so, and then we'll shut off polling. Okay, so who takes more trips? You guys hit it right on. We're talking heritage tourists over leisure tourists. We're talking people who want to go see things about a community more so than people who just want to come to the beach. By what percentage do they outspend? Significantly, as you can see here. You guys have 40% in. Let's take a peek in the numbers coming up. And heritage tourism is a how many dollar a year industry? You guys said 30 billion. We'll take a peek just in a second. I think the numbers might surprise you. All right. All right, so let's talk about heritage tourist behavior. So overall, heritage tourists, especially those of you who rely on hotel bed tax money, consider this. Heritage tourists take more vacations, more heads in beds. They take approximately 3.6 trips annually versus 3.4. That sounds like a close number. However, when you look at the thousands or millions of those trips being taken, we're talking a significant amount. They spend about 60% more on average, 1,300 and change per trip versus about 800 and change per trip for your average domestic leisure tourist. These are people who want to get into an area. They want to eat at the local restaurant rather than the chain. They want to see the local sites. They want to really immerse themselves in local arts and culture, you name it. It's a $171 billion industry in the United States, and that's only projected to accelerate in growth post-COVID. Think of it this way. You're used, before COVID, going to cities, going to places like that was the norm on vacation. Afterwards, a rural area is going to feel more safe to many. So we need to make sure that we're looking at that, keeping that in mind. So that's where you definitely have a place to move the needle on your tourism for a heritage area and for a local area, as well as in a larger city. I mean, looking at safe ways to travel and safe things to visit and so forth, getting off the beaten path. So let's look at a bit of a case study here. Most people are familiar with Route 6. It goes from California to Massachusetts, travels the length of the country. We found some numbers to look specifically at the Pennsylvania portion of Route 6. Let's take a peek at what some of those behaviors look like. But first, let's do one more poll. Again, just kind of want to see what you're thinking here in terms of economic impact. How many overnight stays were there along Route 6 in 2014, and about how many jobs did the tourism influx create? Now, remember, this is an area that is fairly rural. It includes a few medium-sized cities, but it also goes through state park land and is a fairly rural area throughout. A few more seconds here. Okay, it looks like our polling has slowed down. So we'll go ahead and end. And let's take a peek at the results. So you guys guessed that 2.5 million overnight stays. These are how many heads in beds. This isn't how many rooms. This is how many individuals stayed in a hotel from out of state in 2014. And about 6,000 jobs related to tourism influx along Route 6. So let's take a peek at those results. So the best numbers we could find, the most comprehensive numbers we could find, go back to 2014 from a state study in 2016. 4.3 million overnight stays along Pennsylvania Route 6 communities in 1 year. That's out-of-state visitors only. That is someone checking into a hotel with an out-of-state driver's license. That's over $1 billion, or that's over $1 million spent. Direct impact, we're talking nearly 10,000 jobs directly related to the tourism industry. This could be working at state parks. This could be working at museums. This could be working at amusement parks. This could be working at any of the similar items. That's over $216 million in labor. That's also about another $318 in GDP in stuff, totaling about $500 million in output. The total effect, once you add the gas stations, you add the Targets, the Walmarts to grab supplies, the anything that you can think of that's sort of that secondary, the local mom and pop grocery store that people are stopping to get things on their camping trip, those things, that ups us to about 12,000 jobs. 316 million in labor and wages paid out, and nearly 500 million or $500 million in GDP, totaling almost $900 million in output along a fairly rural area, being Pennsylvania Route 6. So again, tourism impact, heritage tourism impact, which is a place this is known for. We can see what's left of the Kinzu Bridge there with the overlook along the Route 6 corridor. It's a situation where this is a big set of numbers and a bit of a surprising set of numbers. So let's look at building that marketing strategy. How are we going to tie your target audience to the marketing you're doing, and what are those components? Julie, do we have any questions that have come up at this point?
We do. We actually have one regarding museums. So
Okay.
the question is from Pam Parker.
Mhm.
Pam asks, how far in advance of a new museum introduction or exhibit do you suggest rolling out the marketing or PR efforts?
Great question, Pam. So two answers here. In terms of the initial planning for your marketing, as soon as you've started the introduction exhibit plan, as soon as you've started to figure out this is what we want to do, this is what we want to exhibit, you should start considering what kind of marketing you're doing for this, because that's the point where you're talking the target audience for the exhibit, and thus how do you best reach that target audience? And we'll get to that once we get into more of those components for the marketing strategy. But it's never too early to start thinking about what your target audience is, what are they going to be searching for, and how are you going to make sure that what you are putting out there is found by them. So the second answer is, as you're developing that, so thinking about it from day one, hey, we're going to do an exhibit on John Smith over here, the people and his contributions to this area, the people who would be interested in that, here they are. As you're thinking about the exhibit and how to appeal to those people, you should be also thinking about how to attract those people in your marketing. On the actual pushing the marketing out, that plan will then tell you, as soon as you get prepared with things, that plan will also help you determine how soon it makes sense to reach out to them. As soon as you have things polished, you can start with teasers and then move on from there. But really making sure, we say here in the office a lot, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, making sure that you're doing things in such a structured way that it comes across very clean and professional, but also start thinking of those things very early on. So then you're not rushing to get that press release out a day and a half before the event and praying the newspaper picks it up. And that's just one example. So you've got your whole marketing plan for an area or even a museum exhibit, and you've got the digital and the traditional pieces put together with plenty of time to spare. Great question.
And actually, Josh, we do have a question. It's regarding, I think, the previous slide. The question is from an anonymous attendee. Is data known about in-state travelers?
I can double check, and actually, when we send out the email with the slides, we can send out that state study that I mentioned for those of you who'd like a copy of it. It's available from the state in PDF format, so we'll make sure we include that as well for you.
Great, thank you.
Sure. All right, so let's chat about some common challenges. This might be challenges for a destination marketing organization or visitors bureau. This might be challenges for a Main Street working on their transformation strategy. This might be for a heritage area, you name it. So if some of them may apply to you, some of them may not. But how do you find and connect with visitors? Does that sound familiar? And get them to spend money? We hear all too often, I'm a drive-by community. How do we get ourselves to no longer be a drive-by community, or we have a state or federal highway nearby, an interstate that millions of cars go down per year. How do we get them to come off the interstate? So how do we connect with those people? Maybe you're working on that transformation strategy, or you've worked with a strategic planning company or consultant, and you're getting your results back. You're presenting those to your board, the public, what have you. And it says in many places through there, you need to do more marketing for this. You need to do more marketing for that. Increase your digital marketing. And you're sitting here going, that's great, but what tactics do we use? How do we do that? How do you differentiate your location and develop a brand? In your eyes, in most people's eyes, an expert has to live at least 50 miles away. I mean, that's kind of we never think someone in our hometown, we take for granted what's in our backyard. So how do we create a list of those assets that we have? And then how do we convert that into a brand and a location? Things that you take for granted, others might find fantastic. But how do we do that? What are those steps? How do you ensure cross-channel consistency and maintain momentum of your marketing? How do you make sure that things look the same and you come off clean and professional across your traditional marketing, your social media marketing, your paid ads, your what have you, to make sure that you look like you're ready for tourists and someone's not doing this sort of in their free time on a lunch break for their community? How do you get stakeholder buy-in and participation? Dealing with the individuals who are going, we don't need that, life is great the way it is. How do you dealing with funding streams, dealing with potential volunteers, dealing with local municipalities, state or federal representatives, all of those things. And then how do you prove return on investment? You're applying for grants, you're going to donors, you're saying, hey, we'd like to develop these communities, we'd like to increase our marketing, we'd like to ... Where do we get numbers from what is normally a hard to judge field? How do you tell that someone drove over the county line or drove into that heritage area, and that they're spending money at that store because they're a tourist and not a local or what have you? So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So what we'd love to do now is have another poll in here, but what we want to know is what are you dealing with? It's a situation where, what are you dealing with the most? What information do you need the most insight on? And that might help steer a bit of our conversation. And also, if there's any way we can help out afterwards, we'll do our best to answer some questions. So go ahead and take a look at those, and the community, the area, the organization you're representing. If there's anything on there that you're going, oh, this is the issue I have, go ahead and click that. We'll give it a few seconds here. Seeing a lot on the stakeholder buy-in. I'm seeing a lot of showing our contribution to economic development. Good points. Let's give it a few more seconds. All right. So our results, it looks like many of you are looking at contribution to how to show that ROI and towards your local economic development. And then there are a lot of close seconds: stakeholder buy-in, differentiating that brand, keeping up with your digital marketing. It's an increasingly digital world. COVID has shown us that. I mean, in a world where many people are working from home, and as we get up and running, a lot of those patterns where instead of stopping at the rest stop and picking up brochures, it's still important, yes, but less and less of that has been happening for the last year, and more look it up on our phones, look it up on the computer, figure out those plans digitally. So how do we keep up with that? How do we connect with visitors and show another good one? So yeah, it looks like we've got a decent spread here. So we'll continue through, we'll make sure that we talk about that contribution, and also if there's anything we can do to present future webinar topics and whatnot based on any of these or anything else, feel free to shoot us an email if there's some questions you'd like us to either answer with or potentially work into a future program. All right, So let's hop out of here. And so marketing needs to start with a strategy. So we've all been in this situation where we need to do a better job marketing our area. So let's get on, and you hear somebody on a committee saying, we need to be on the Facebook. I love when we say the before this stuff, the Facebook, the Twitter, the what have you. Or we need to send out more brochures. Let's design something new. Let's get it out there. This is the point where most of you should smile, say, let's pause and think about it a second. And what are our objectives of the larger organizations, the heritage area, the DMO, the what have you? What is the objective? Is it increased hotel stays? Is it increased locals going to those assets that you have there, those museums, those museums, those aquariums, those whatever, those trails, the lakes? What's the goal? And let's focus on SMART goals: specific, measurable, and an acronym for everybody: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. Goals that it's not, we need more people. That is not a specific goal. We need more heads in beds. We need to increase our hotel bed tax because it helps us promote or increase marketing. That's a specific goal. Something that you can measure. Again, we need more people. People traveling by car, that's hard to measure. However, people checking into hotels, that's easier to measure. A goal that's attainable. This is not the place where you need to be saying, we need to increase our hotel. Now, coming out of COVID, this might be an easier number to hit this year as people are vaccinated and such. But year to year, COVID aside, we need to, it's hard to say, we need to increase our hotel stays by 100%. Well, in an average year, you're not going to double and triple and quadruple some of those things. Make sure they're goals that you can succeed at. They're goals that are relevant, saying, oh, hey, we want to have people using these assets, want to increase the number of people coming to our area to do these things, and time bound within the next year, within the next 3 months. Look at these things you have to take a bite of that whale one bite at a time. You can't eat it all at once. So look at what your steps are for this. So what are the benefits of spiking those brakes and putting that strategy together? Well, for one, we've all had to work with various stakeholders, be them local business, be them elected officials, what have you. Let's put these people together in a room with a direction and a purpose, and not just, hey, we need to increase tourism. So this is the part where we say, we're working on a marketing plan. We need your input, and you put that structure behind it that gives them that direction. This is a great, a marketing strategy is a great way to open up communication with siloed organizations. Maybe you have a DMO and you have a heritage area, and you have maybe a local economic development authority, and you have the historical society and the mayor, the county commissioner, the what have you. And these are not groups that normally play well together. This is a great way to start to, and maybe they get along well, but they're all always doing their own thing, and you're seeing redundancy and wasteful spending because it's 3 people or 4 organizations trying to do the same thing. This is a great way to get them all on the same page and say, we share these goals. Let's all work on our piece towards this combined mission and towards this combined marketing. It improves your chance of getting funding because it shows those of you, since economic development was mentioned, we want to redevelop areas of our downtown. Well, this shows not just, hey, we can develop it. So instead of having that, oh, if we build it, people will show up mentality, this shows we're going to fix it, we're going to transform it, and then we have these steps to bring people here. So when you go to a funding stream, you go to a bank, you go to a granting agency, anything, you can say not just we're going to fix this building, or we're going to improve our main street, or we're going to improve this asset in our area. This is how we're going to get people in the doors to make sure it's sustainable long term. Make sure prioritize efforts and resources. Again, if we've got a direction and a purpose and we've got obtainable goals, we now know this is what we need to prioritize to get those heads in beds, or this is what we need to prioritize to increase our overall tourism, heritage tourism in this region, versus shooting spaghetti out of a cannon and hoping that you hit a target. This is also where it's time to be both honest and look for those unseen potholes, those bumps in the road that you're going, oh, we've not thought about that before. The closest hotel is 50 miles away. Oh, crud. This is where we start to look at these things. Oh, hey, we don't even have a Facebook page for this or a website for this area, but we want to bring tourists in. Oh, crud. This is where we be honest with ourselves at what things look like. This is where we be honest with ourselves on how to improve them. And we look for those issues so we can fill them in and we can figure out how to compensate accordingly. Having this strategy, having the workshops for this, having the community input for this neutralizes the cave and NIMBY people. That's citizens against virtually everything. And we all have them, the not in my backyard folks. Yep, we think it's great when we go on vacation, all these other places are great, but we don't want all those new people in our town. We don't want all this in our town. This is a great way to make these people feel heard. You may or may not listen to what they say long term, but you've given them an opportunity to say it. You've given, and they might bring up an interesting point that you can say, you can go, you know what, in our marketing, we'll adjust this slightly for everyone's benefit. But it quite often neutralizes those individuals that, or at least if not even neutralizes them, identifies who's going to be a thorn in your side later. And it provides context for your contribution to economic development. Again, this is that strategy that shows if we build it, we can get them to come, and this is how. So this is what we're looking at there. All right, so step one, let's assess that current situation. Who are these stakeholders? Invite them to participate. Invite them to give us their opinion. Now, again, structure is key here. This might be a community brainstorming session, but it also might be a survey. Let's look at not just who's going to participate with things, but what questions and how are we framing those questions we ask them? And make sure when you include these might be stakeholders that you're not originally thinking of. This might be that business decided to move here and you're going, what caused them to come into our town and get started? They've not been here for years. They looked at a map of the United States and they picked us. Why? Or they retired and decided to move to this town. Why? Or this county. Why? So make sure you think about those kind of things too. Inventory those internal resources that you have or the organizations involved have, because the worst thing to do is have this great plan that sits on a shelf because you don't have the staff to execute it. So again, on those goals, the attainability of those. Not just what should be done in an ideal world to make this town get tens of thousands of new people, but what can we do now? What can we do in the future? Where can we go after that? And so on and so forth. Evaluate a full list of assets. These are your amenities, such as hotels, restaurants, et cetera. These are your history assets, your arts and culture, natural assets, local events. Are you known for a festival in your area? And you're sitting here going, there's no reason that someone 2 states away wouldn't want to be a part of this. List those things. This is another place to think outside the box in terms of what do you have that you are taking for granted, but someone 2 states away might be going, oh my God, that's so cool. I would have gone to that and I known it existed. So that's something to think about. List your area's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This might be, strength might be you have 30 walking trail or hiking trails within the geographic confines of your area. It might be you have a lake nearby. A weakness might be there's not a great hotel nearby, or there's not something to keep people here. Your opportunities, well, there's not a great hotel, but there's 2 people interested in opening a campground, and we have a lot of natural assets. So maybe we work to assist those people with what's needed because it's going to help us market the area as a whole. Or maybe we don't have a website and we need to, as a weakness for this community or this area, this heritage region, what have you. How can we the opportunities, where's there room to see low-hanging fruit and then higher hanging fruit beyond that to work towards? And then threats. Is there an issue on the economics of a local business that you're worried if they move out, we're going to have trouble? Is there an issue, exact one none of us imagined before? Oh, hey, COVID. And so are there things to do that if we have another spike, there are things that are safe outdoors or socially distant that we can do that we can use now to appeal to people to come to our area, not knowing as we go forth what's happening. Compare things against known and unknown quote unquote competitors. Now, when I say competitors, I'm talking other areas, other towns. And what we're looking for here is not, oh, hey, we need to take those people away. What are they doing that you're going, oh my gosh, that's being done really well, that's working. Looking online and I'm seeing that, oh, this community over here has similar assets as us. This is how they're portraying it. These are things, places where we can steal ideas from. One of my colleagues says he's not had an original idea since the invention of Google. So this is where you jump in and go, hey, what's being done well in other places and what's being done not so well that we're going, okay, we're going to avoid that. And then determine your brand. We're not talking about a logo here. Determine your community, your heritage areas brand, or what have you. And we'll talk a bit about brands in just a second. All right. Any questions at this point, Julie?
Not yet. No,
All right.
we're good. Thanks.
Okay. Let's chat a bit about current needs that you guys might have in those regards. Let's see here. So in terms of needs that we've just talked about, things that we should highlight on now or in future programming, any issues against competitors, issues inviting stakeholders, how do we do this? What things you'd like to talk more about here? Seeing a lot on the brand end. Give it just a couple more seconds and then we'll chat about this as well. Okay. Let's take a look. So determining your area's brand definitely wins out on this one. And then comparing against competitors. Again, this is as part of a good plan. It's why reinvent the wheel? If you're seeing you've got similar assets to another location and they're portraying theirs in a certain way, it's not a bad thing to look and see what they're doing well and copy same tactics. Obviously, we're not going to copy the exact, but you're going, oh, they have a museum of similar, they have an amusement park of a similar, they have lakes of a similar. What are they doing to push that out there? And we'll talk about some of those specific tactics here in just a few minutes as part of these plans. All right, good questions, guys. Good points. All right, so let's talk about that brand. So you could easily use heritage tourism as a framework for you to develop a USP or a unique selling point. This is that simple statement that summarizes your value as when I say your value, not just of your organization, but the area you represent's value to visitors as opposed to other destinations. You've got let's say a family of 4 Googling for their summer vacation, and they want to go somewhere they can really explore. This isn't the Disney trip. This isn't the let's just go to the beach and hang out for 3 days trip. This is we want to take our kids and jump into somewhere family friendly. This is the unique selling point, is what they see that makes them go, huh, we should look more into them. So your brand, but I mentioned not just a logo. This is a promise to a visitor about the experience that they're getting, your unique selling point, the experience they're getting there, and then being able to deliver on that promise. Let's say you're out in the Midwest or out in the Western United States in an area that has a lot of Wild West history. And you have several assets there. Can you deliver something there that others aren't, that they're not going to see in other places? And can you deliver that authentic experience? When I say can you deliver it, this is a situation where you have to really look at not just what can you draw people in for, but when they get there, to make sure that you can deliver that experience, that those assets are open, available, in good shape, or what can we do to be able to push our area. And then obviously we have to consider brand cohesion. We want to ensure that the stakeholders in your area understand this brand and it's communicated across channels. That's why it's important to involve the stakeholders somewhere. It's great for a DMO to go, hey, we're going to start pushing this county as let's say, as a county that you can come boating to because of these lakes. Meanwhile, if they're the only ones doing it and the county itself, county government's not, the communities around, the chambers of commerce around, what have you, aren't. It looks like you've got this one person over here, or this one group over here on this one website saying, "Ooh, come look." But if you get all of these assets together, you then maybe have a situation where people are traveling from a state or two or three or five or 10 away because, oh, hey, they can run a boat here, they can stay here, they can do this, they can do that, they can eat at this restaurant, and it's all connected to why they came, that unique selling point that drew them in. So this takes a little bit of thought, and it honestly could be a program on its own. So let's categorize marketing activities. We want a tourist to come in. What's next? So this is 4 steps. The first thing we want to do is we're going to attract someone, and think of this sort of as a funnel. In fact, we'll see it as a funnel in just a minute. We're trying to reach new potential visitors to create awareness. The first step is how do we get people to know you're there? Now, if you think of it as a funnel, this is the top of the funnel, that broad, the very broad Google searching places to go. Boom. Oh, I didn't know that. Next, differentiate. How is your destination unique? What will they get from going there that they might not have gotten from somewhere else? So let's get them there now. They've booked their stay. They're coming to see your town, your community, your county, your heritage region, your what have you. Now let's make it as easy as possible for them to visit you and get around while they're there, and then re-engage them. Validate their experience so they're happy they went on that trip, and they feel very that they feel that it was a beneficial experience for them, and was not a waste of their vacation. And then make them an evangelist for that place. So then you're getting people next year who go, "Oh yeah, a friend of mine said we had to come see this because of ... So let's look at it as a funnel. Attracting people, that's your broad category. This is very general information, very interesting, appealing, attracting information. Now, how are we different from other places you could visit? How do we make your life easier when you get here? And how do we make sure we deliver on that experience? And then how do we get you to come back? So thinking of it this way: awareness, consideration, decision to come, and then affirmation. This was a great idea. Let's consider it again, or let's tell our friends, let's tell our family. Let's rent that cabin next year, that kind of thing. So let's tuck in from there the different portions of a strategy. Audience personas, who are the people we're trying to attract? The market research necessary, and we'll chat about that in a little bit as well, to know who those people are and what they're looking for. Keyword glossary on the digital end, especially. How are we attracting those people to this area when they're looking for things? How do we make sure that they're finding us? What is our plan for social media? A lot of us, if not all of us, use Facebook. Many of us use Instagram or whatnot. How are we using it well for this purpose, to fulfill these goals? Differentiating buyer's journey. What are these people thinking as they're making their plans? How do we make sure that we are in front of their eyes as that decision happens? A content matrix, we'll chat about that in just a minute. And then distributing that content, how is it distributed correctly, again, to get it in front of their eyes? That competition study we mentioned. On the facilitate end, when they're here, what's the story behind it? Oh, hey, we have this Wild West resource, and that's it. There's no label, there's no nothing. We've got to make sure that when they get there, they understand what they're seeing, what they're doing, and they're enjoying themselves. And then what's our plan to re-engage people? All right, so on the persona end, who are you trying to reach? What do they value? What amenities will they connect with? Are they the type who are outdoors and wanting to camp? Are they the type who want to stay at a hotel? Are they the type who like local food? Are they the type who needs convenience? What are their pain points? What are they coming for? Why are they choosing you over someone else? What are their misperceptions about you that you might be able to clean up through your marketing? And then after that, what objections might they still have? Who or what do they trust when making decisions, which helps you decide where to promote yourselves at? And where are they getting their information, again, helping you promote yourselves in the right places. Let's tie that messaging to decision-making. Julie, do you want to chat a little bit about the data we mentioned, or we talked about the other day?
Sure, right. So for those of you who are members of the Pennsylvania Downtown Center, or those of you who might be considering it, one of the services that we do provide for members is we're able to access a variety of different kinds of data reports, those that are driven from either US Census information, US economic census. It also, the reports take into consideration consumer spending and other buying power. So able to really look at where you have that supply and demand, or that kind of opportunity or gap when you're looking at recruiting new businesses, or other businesses are looking to expand. But they also, the reports can also give you an indication if you know where your customers are coming from, and you have that established, trade area. So whether it's visitors or other more local customers, we can actually run the numbers to that geography, and it gives you an idea of who that group is comprised of. And as it's relevant here, there's actually information on behavioral patterns and the consumer spending. And the system we use is called PRISM, and it's the psychographic data. So really understanding and having that insight into your visitor or your customer, and how that then can be utilized for branding strategies, for business recruitment strategies, for other kinds of, the businesses themselves can really use that information to target how they market, how they promote. Certain types of events as well can be really geared towards that, once you have a better and deeper understanding of the people, of, again, the visitors or the customers for your business district.
Great, thank you, Julie. When we, just so everybody knows, and this might answer a few questions, when we send out the recording, the slides, et cetera, we'll make sure we have good information for both Bull Moose Marketing and the PA Downtown Center, in case anyone does want to join or just want to reach out to Julie for more information there. All right, so let's tie that messaging to the decision making. We'll see a content matrix in just a second, but that's going to align the messaging you have to the decision making process of those tourists. We're going to look at the state of mind of each of those tourists as they're deciding to come to your region. What questions are they asking? And we're going to use the answers to those questions to inform your marketing content. So the goal here is to not just be salesy. Oh, visit Ohio. The goal is to say, okay, people are looking for this. How can we make sure when they look for this, they see a blog post here, they see a social media post there or whatnot that's answering their question, going, hey, that's a great idea. We should look at them for our vacation this year. Use these answers to identify both keywords for paid advertising online and organic search results in blogs and so forth. And then align the content with your paid, earned, and owned. Paid being paid advertising, earned, example, the following on your social media channels, and owned, your website, et cetera, to each stage of that decision-making process. So taking a look at what's sort of the baseball card version of a heritage tourism content matrix, you might have these for different personas. You might have these for couples with children. You might have these for retirees. You might have these for outdoor lovers. You might have these for et cetera. What state of mind are they in? What questions are they asking? What answers, and thus what topics and keywords are you going to be using for your content? Where is that content best fitting to see that it gets in front of them? And how are you distributing it? This is right here. This is, and it takes a bit of work to do, but this research up front can make sure that you're not spending money on content that's never being seen. Let's see here. Let's jump through a little bit more of this, and then we'll go back to some questions. Again, we had that funnel. So we have our planning tools on the left that we discussed. And then on the right, those planning tools help dictate what tactics and what tools and how those tools are used. For example, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, marketing automation, email marketing, et cetera. Chat bots on your website, social media, et cetera. How are those being used to fulfill that strategy and hopefully get in front of the right people? So any questions we have at the moment, Julie?
So we do have a question, and that is regarding whether or not there's any state marketing for an entire region, such as Route 6.
There are in many cases, just using Pennsylvania since that's where we're located as example, there are a lot of heritage corridor organizations. There are a lot of heritage region organizations. So in terms of there is a Route 6 organization that markets along Route 6. There is, example, the Oil Region Alliance that does a lot of things, but one of those is marketing the oil heritage region for the Park Service, the National Oil Heritage Area. So to answer your question, it varies state by state. It varies locality by locality, even on the county and so forth level. However, there are many larger marketing, be it state or be it extra organization that works with state funds or federal funds to market an area, a route, a corridor, or what have you.
And Josh, too, if I can just add, I mean,
Yep.
if the person asking was from Pennsylvania, although there's fairly limited funding through the Department of Community and Economic Development and the Visit PA, kind of that tourism marketing arm, there are other entities, as Josh was saying, that are regional that you could kind of collectively form together. Under the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, there are the Heritage Areas program is actually under that, as well as the Conservation Landscapes programs as well. And Josh, you had mentioned like the destination marketing organizations and that sort of thing. So some community foundations also fund various initiatives for marketing. Yes. And really depending on how you develop it into your strategy, there is some additional funding that could be utilized through other funding sources, whether it would be, I think the Greenways and Trails could probably be a source of funding. And if it's part of a larger strategy that would incorporate like multimodal transportation, wayfinding, and those sorts of things, there might be able to be some opportunities to even bring in someone like PennDOT. So it's really, it can come down to kind of, who you are, what your region is, what you're trying to market as well. So there could be multiple funding sources.
We've got a couple of slides here to go, and then we'll come back and answer any other questions anyone might have. Just want to make sure for time-wise that we can jump through things, and then we'll answer questions, and we'll stick around as long as we need to for that. So next, let's chat about, we're looking at this strategy now. How do we make this A, actionable, and B, get that measurable, that return on investment numbers that we talked about? So the trick here is, let's say one of our SMART goals is to increase overnight campers. So we know we need more heads in beds. We know we want to increase tourism in an area. Let's look at maybe one of those subsets as campers. So the trick here is really to set up some key performance indicators to break this down. So maybe our marketing initiative needs to be bring people in over 100 miles away. We're looking for our KPIs are to increase reservations and increased requests for park materials. So on the broad, oh, hey, how do we get more campers here? That seems like a hard number to grasp. Or how do we tell that we've gotten more? Well, so let's break it down. We've got two different possible sources, and they kind of give us different angles to look at to get some of these numbers. But we've got increased reservations of people we know have signed up. And we've got increased requests for people that we know we might have a pipeline for future signs up or future reservations. From there, how do we get those numbers necessarily? Or how do we increase those numbers, I should say? Let's look at then from there, let's break it down to some campaigns on how to reach those performance indicators. Maybe a coupon like to a local cultural amenity, or camping versus a hotel to save money. Maybe it's a promotion package looking at families that need to entertain kids. Maybe it's with a local water park. Maybe it's with a local museum that you're packaging some assets together, packaging attractions together. And then number 3, wayfinding. Maybe it's RV enthusiasts that you're trying to reach out directly to that are interested in a spot to stop, and maybe a spot to stop for more than just a stay, but maybe a spot to stay for a day or two. So we look at it at how do we increase those numbers through some sub campaigns rather than just increase campers go. Then this is where, so we've got our strategy, we've got our goals, we've got the numbers we're going to try to measure. we're looking at campaigns. Now we bring in the tactics. We bring in targeted social media ads. We bring in email blasts. We bring in pop-ups on the website, things like that. So rather than just going, ooh, let's put a pop-up and see what happens, we've got our goals, we've got the numbers we're trying to reach, and now we're doing these tactics as part of a larger goal with a purpose and with a measurability. The analytics behind that, you can see example email deliveries, the bounces, the open rates, the click-throughs, the downloads of those coupons, those kind of things. So now you can then take and go, we know of the people we're reaching, this percentage are responding. And we can start to pull together a set of analytics that we could use for things in the future. All right. And then on the takeaways for today, then we'll hit all of our questions. So heritage tourism has proven to be more effective than general tourism to bring people in, especially people into the off the beaten path area, into the town, the community, the museum, the what have you, versus this isn't the bring people in to see the monuments in DC. This is bring people in to see things all over the country in places that you might not necessarily see yourself as a tourism stop, but see that you could be one with a little bit of work. And so it can be the framework that a destination uses to develop their brand. We've got a great downtown. We've got a lot of historical features. We've got a lot of things nearby that we take for granted on a daily basis. But hey, these make an attractive package. Let's use this as the framework to develop that brand. Creating the strategy provides direction and purpose, helping define the context of your value as either a destination marketing organization, a downtown organization, a heritage area, a Main Street program, a economic development authority, what have you. Let's incorporate those personas. Who are we trying to get and where do they get their information? The content matrix, how do we get in front of that information, those tactics, and then those analytics, those follow-up key performance indicators as all into that strategy so you can see what's working, what's not, and save and spend money more efficiently rather than just saying, buy an ad and hope it works. And then reevaluate this as you go and change as needed. So this isn't we did it, we're going to put it on a shelf, and 10 years later, we're going to do it again. Technology changes, people change, events like COVID, for example, change. So let's all come out of this with a little bit better idea on how to sell ourselves and sell our brand to a greater area. So let's jump into some questions.
Okay, Josh, it looks like we've got a question. Is it better to market a region or corridor if you are too small to act as an attraction yourself?
Absolutely. It's a situation where the more partners that you can get to work together, the better. That also allows you to bring in combined resources. It allows you to get more of those stakeholders involved. So if I, as a museum, want to try to get people to come in from 2 states away, is that going to work as well as I working with my Visitors Bureau or DMO, working with local restaurants and a package, local theater groups, all kinds of things? Is that going to get us further? Absolutely. So this is a situation where if you can work together to try to get an agreed upon goal achieved versus then just trying it yourself, you've got more resources, more staff, more funding, more skill, and so forth. So absolutely.
Okay, it looks like we've got one question, and this refers back to one of the responses from the poll regarding the economic development strategy. So here we've got a community that's trying to move forward a heritage tourism initiative, but not everybody is on the same page or really values this as a priority. They've got some community leaders that are still focused on bringing those larger corporations or manufacturers to town. So what would you suggest as far as ways that they can help bring more attention to this focus area, create greater agreement among the local decision makers, and really try to move this forward?
This is a situation where that looking at developing this strategy can be part of that solution. When I say that workshop that you're inviting those stakeholders to, you might get a lot of skeptics coming in the door. But if you start that, think of it this way: when we started this presentation, the first thing we did is we looked at those numbers, looked at why heritage tourism works. We looked at why this could help your community, and through numbers in there. If you set those things, set this community discussion up, this regional discussion up in such a way that, yes, we want everyone on the bus, and this is why that bus is going this direction, or this is why we would like this bus to go this direction. It also, I mean, feel free to reach out to, if you're in Pennsylvania, feel free to reach out to Julie, and feel free to reach out to myself and our staff here. If it's a situation where putting together this kind of a strategy makes sense to have somebody involved, it's a great way to bring in that expert that's more than 50 miles away, like I said, to say, hey, this is why, this is what you're saying is important and has value, but this is why we also need, you need to look at this in as broad a context as possible to bring people in.
Yeah, great. I think we had some comments to what you just said, that not to forget to utilize your county destination marketing organization as a valuable resource to help promote their your businesses. We have,
Absolutely.
I think we've got, do we have time for one last question?
We do, sure.
Okay, what is the best way to incorporate heritage tourism in local government policy, such as comprehensive plans and zoning ordinances?
So getting those stakeholders involved up front is a great way to make sure that people are thinking about these things. Because it also helps that local government to see just what's, not just what's in the backyard in terms of assets that might get overlooked. For example, here, the museum, the theater, the whatnot, quite often aren't thought about in that kind of planning. But the more of these conversations that happen in the community level and in the regional level, and the more of those meetings that occur, then getting, quite often it's local government officials and whatnot aren't seeing the importance of some of those things in not just themselves, but how important they are to their community and how important they are, again, looking at those numbers, to the region overall. So some of that marketing strategy is, how are we seeing the analytics that when you guys are on the local government level are looking at your comprehensive plan and looking at zoning, look at the people that we're attracting and look at here the numbers of the people we're attracting. And some of these people, and Julie, if you want to real quick give me that Schilling quote that you gave the other day.
Oh yeah, Dan Schilling from Civic Tourism, that a great place to live is a great place to visit, and a great place to visit is a great place to live.
So thinking that direction, looking at how tourism can influence business development, because someone might visit, they might come back and start a business, they might decide to retire there. So these all feed into each other. Using those analytics, using the data that you're pulling, both benchmark overall and community data, to show, hey, these decisions might make a bigger economic difference. That's really where some of those answers lie, and the language that many of those officials might look at.
All right. It looks like we do have kind of another question along the lines of just really trying to make sure that everybody is on the same page, that they're rowing the boat in the same direction. And although there may be a variety of separate initiatives that are going on, the importance of really bringing everyone together so that those efforts aren't siloed. So I think that kind of addresses the comment or question that we received there. So I think with that being said, that we've addressed all the questions that we've received to date.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else? Any final thoughts, Julie? I'm going to bring up the next webinar Bull Moose is doing, and we're still putting together some final information. Is leveraging influencer marketing into heritage tourism, in leveraging getting individuals that have that following involved to help bring people and help show people what your town, what your community, what your county, what your heritage area can offer.
That sounds great.
So then any other final thoughts on your end?
No, I think we covered a lot. Thank you so much, Josh. I think this was very relevant for many of the communities we have here in Pennsylvania and for those participating. So I believe you will be following up with the recording for anyone who's interested in it, would like to share it, and just appreciate the opportunity to partner.
We'll get that out. We'll get downtown center information out if anyone wants to reach out to Julie. You're always welcome to reach out to me as well if anyone has any questions, comments, specific issues you want to chat about, and either myself or one of my counterparts here at Bull Moose are happy to help out, and we'll also send out the link to that PA report we mentioned. Okay, well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we hope that this was beneficial, and we are excited to be of service. So let us know what we can do here. We'll get you some more information out once that webinar, that next webinar in June is finalized, but have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Take care.